the incorporeal. So I've been often, especially when I go for a walk or something like that, been really working with this, just very consciously bringing this awareness as I'm moving in the body, in a sense, and sensing like the angelic, that sense of light, and then also creating this awareness of just being invisible. And many years ago, I was a bit of a Harry Potter fan, so I was playing with the idea of putting on my invisibility cloak and just this being that's walking through. And I think what it really made me aware, and the connection Baba played today with the eyes, was that how the habit of really feeling the pull of the physical when we're seeing with these eyes, and it's something that we need to really work with on that deeper level. And for me, it was this feeling that when I like almost withdraw from being so absorbed by what the eye is seeing, then it sort of makes me more conscious of the presence and the vibration of my being. So it was almost like just feeling that kind of movement, that I can only really feel my angelic self, my sense of the lightness, the vibration I am, when I almost sort of make what I'm seeing physically become less obvious, or like almost like become a bit more of a blur in a sense, so that the internal world begins to become more obvious. So it's a really lovely thing of just working with that. And one experience, because linked with this eye and what I see is also Baba talking about the blood connections, and how, when you see this is, you say, oh, this is my child, or this is my whatever, and feeling how that vision also, how it triggers so many things. And I want to share one experience. Good few years ago, my dad was lucky father had lung cancer, and he was in his sort of final stages. And I remember sitting next to him, and the thought came, look what has happened to my father. That was the thought that came, and there was just like this surge of sadness that emerged, because he was not fully conscious and was completely bedridden and stuff like that. And then in the next instance, it was like while sitting there and feeling this, and then telling myself, I'm a soul, and this is God's child, this is a soul. And it was amazing, the experience I had, because instantly it was like that wave of emotion that I felt like dissolved. But the important thing that emerged was there was like a capacity then to actually give vibrations of peace to the soul. And so for me, that was a very important insight, that when we keep to the blood connection in the attitude and in the thinking, we will always be taking. And therefore, it triggers all the emotions that are linked to taking. But the moment that we realize that it's a spiritual relationship, it's like it activates this capacity of being able to give. Because it's like, I think that's what begins to define the spiritual relationship. My taking is from Baba, and then it's just about giving and sharing, and celebrating what we're seeing in the soul. So that experience was very insightful, and often when I do find when the relationships become in any way a bit tense or whatever, it is really to check, okay, how am I looking at this relationship? And when I get back to that, it's a spiritual connection, and we are all children of the one Father, and it naturally, it's without effort, that it naturally shifts the feelings and the attitude. So that one practice is a very powerful one. We had a session with Sister Jayanti a few weeks back, and the theme was on the call of time. And so, she sort of shared a few sort of steps, almost in a way. Um, and she started off by really saying, becoming so conscious of the pull of the sense organs. And then today, Baba very nicely spoke about, you see something, then your heart wants it, and the mouth meows for it, and it's a ripple effect of it. But I think 2 days ago, when Baba said that you see something, and then if you can't have it, then it triggers aggression as well. So this whole thing of being aware of just the deep pull and the habit of the senses, and so just being conscious of it, because that's the first step. And I think when we can really be aware of how my senses pull me, because sometimes it's also to see how it triggers certain emotions when when the senses get pulled. How much am I still at a subtle level working from preference? And so becoming more conscious of that, and then of course, then I can begin to become a bit more detached from the pull of the elements. So first the senses, and then the elements that I can then sort of work with. But one element that I really liked was, Baba saying that yes, you have to conquer the senses, and as you move towards a Sato Pradhan stage, there's more strength, and you become more virtuous and more pure. And it is nice that Baba um, distinguished between virtue and strength. It's like the power of the soul begins to grow. But in order to do that, in a way, just remember Baba, and Baba is your friend. So that element that, the more soul conscious I become, the more detached I become, the more I become the observer of things outside of me. But it's almost like the power to be the observer happens when I keep Baba's company, when I make Baba my friend. So in Hindi, the word is very lovely because it rhymes when Baba says Sathi and Sakshi. So the companion and the observer always goes together in a way. So it's by keeping Baba's company that I am freed from matter. I'm freed from drama, and I can become the observer of the drama in that way. So a lovely connection in that sense as well, that the effort is remembrance, but it's also the remembrance of the relationship of the companion. It's like Baba's doing this with me. And I think that's a important element that I've been sort of just keeping in my own awareness as well, that yes, we know we have to get to the destination that we need to, but also to know that Baba's doing this with us. And irrespective of the obstacle or the challenge that I know I have to work through and I have to get through, but just knowing that it's not a journey alone, it's a journey that God's doing it with me. That Baba's holding my hand as I'm walking through, and I love this feeling that um, you know Baba sees my perfection, but the kind of his uh, his pride, but also in a way that he wants me to succeed. And I think that feeling that God's investing in me to get to where I need to get to, it's like a feeling of Baba's trust, Baba's love, Baba's companionship, which I think is very good to keep reviving in the self, so that whatever the challenge is, I can keep the perspective of where it belongs. That it's there, but it doesn't define me, you know. I've got God's support and company in that regard. So yeah, that was another aspect, and that feeling that as I ascend, everyone else ascends. And I think in a sense that we don't have to do anything. It's just about being with Baba, and that feeling that it's that connection, that presence, that um, the experience of God that I have is what's going to serve others as well. And that was something that I, sort of been sort of experimenting with in a way, because one of the key things has always been about Mansa Seva, serving through the mind, and what does that mean? And I just really like this idea in a way, and I've been working with it, that let me create the feeling with God that I want others to feel. So it's not that I'm going to like, send some vibration specifically anyway, but let me just feel what I'd like others to feel. And so just connecting with Baba and knowing that in my experience, I'm generating that as an atmosphere, and wherever that needs to serve, it will serve, it will touch wherever it needs to. So it's really a lovely thing about, yes, whatever we cultivating, awakening, polishing, emerging in ourselves, that yes, that is serving everyone, that is serving everyone that we know or even we don't know. um
Tell us
and
about
yeah,
Amravela, please.
yes, I'm going on
Because
to
you're
that.
making it such an effort right now. It'd be wonderful to hear.
Yes, I think it was very interesting just before I left Madhuban. It was my last day in Pandav Bhavan, and as I was taking leave from Baba's room in Pandav Bhavan, it was just a very clear signal that I got, from Baba, that it's like start making Amrit Vela the big focus. So when I came back, I immediately started having earlier Amrit Vela. I started off trying to have from 3 o'clock Amrit Vela rather than 4. And then after Daddy left the body, and it was a few days after that, I felt, no, I need to even increase the Amrit Vela. So I started having Amrit Vela. I sort of get up at around 2, so around 2:15, 2:30, I've been having Amrit Vela. And what it has been is that um, I think the feeling really is that it's that solid time with Baba that's critical in a way. It's like if that becomes my focus, then I felt everything else fell into place from there. So getting those 3 hours or 2.5 hours in the morning, then it meant that I could fit in the evening yoga or whatever, and I got my 4 hours. That was my key thing. But for Amrit Vela, it's been a few things that I've been working with. And one is that just really practicing the drill, because just really wanting to experience that stage of just being with Baba and being light, and feeling that kind of a distance from the body. And I've used, the drill. I've started off with the drill. There've been times that I've also just chanted Om, because I found that that also helped a lot in just creating this feeling of just being that energy of stillness. Um, and one day, when I was chanting Om, it was like I just felt like a deep, like a memory kind of feeling of just when Baba started the yagya, how Baba would chant Om. So there was like a deep kind of a resonance of something that emerged. And so I felt like, yeah, this is connecting for me on a very special level and a very deep level in that regard. And the other aspect that I've also been using in my Amrit Vela as well, and that also has been a very powerful experience is that um, I've just sort of created this awareness and this feeling in a way that the center of power on the planet is the Tower of Peace. Like that's the heart of power, and then everything spreads out from there. So one of the things I've always done in Madhuban when I've been there is like physically be um, at the Tower of Peace for Amrit Vela. So I've also in my consciousness have like placed myself at the Tower of Peace for Amrit Vela, and it's just this feeling that it's where I place my awareness, that's where I am. So whether it's Baba's room in front of Bhavan or the Tower of Peace, and very consciously placing myself to feel that energy and that love, and knowing that it was like an image of that's the vortex of power, and wherever we are, then we begin to allow the energy of that power we connected to filter through to wherever we are. So those were some of the yuktis that I've been using to really um, keep that center and keep that focus for Amrit Vela. But I also have used Amrit Vela in some ways to really look at, Baba talked about obstacle and obstruction. And and there's a subtle difference from the way I've seen it in a way, or understanding it. And obstruction for me is really seeing what am I holding on to. And so the aim is there to have this bodiless experience with Baba, or to have this experience of just uh, you know feeling Baba's love or the companionship with Baba. But I've been observing for myself that, like, I get into the drill or into the awareness, but how long am I able to maintain that? And then watching where does the intellect drift off to, when it does drift off. And in a way, it's been a very important element of just saying, okay, um, what am I holding on to? That's why there's the pool there. So it's also been a time to actually see where some of the attachments are still there. And sometimes it's not even just attachment to things or people. That hasn't really been the thing. But I think also how sometimes the attachment is to past experience. And so just really understanding and seeing that how um, there's a particular belief or a feeling or whatever that that becomes the obstruction. And one big realization, almost in a sense, was that that our deepest sorrow, that that sort of gets embedded in us, is really um, that experience of in the copper age, when the first time we moved away from our purity. And it's the sorrow of self-betrayal. And and just recognizing that that's the deepest sorrow. And also seeing that, but you can't blame yourself for it. It was just part of the drama because you lost power, and it's part of the story of coming down in the cycle. But just recognizing that and seeing that how because of that one thing, how so many other things manifested from that. So I found that that was very useful, that came up to see that, and because of that deeper sorrow, how the coping has always been to try and cover up that by over engaging in service or tasks or responsibilities or whatever the case may be. So understanding the pattern from there. So I just felt that time of silence and seeing ways that I really want to be and what's interfering has been a very useful thing. and having that stretch of time is what allowed for that to happen. And then what I have also done, especially in the beginning when lockdown really started, was I sort of pulled out all the renunciation murlis again, and just also using that as the mirror to see, okay, where does the intellect go, and what's underneath it, so that I can clear that out, and just face it. Just face it. It's I think um, uh, yesterday's Murli was a very interesting aspect that Baba brought up, because Baba said that uh, you can have remembrance, but only when there is honesty with Baba, then there is the power in your remembrance. And so I also began to, look at that aspect, that, you know, seeing that I want to be with Baba, but what pulls, and being honest about it and facing it as much as I can, that it sort of um, invites Baba's help then to actually move through it. But it's like until I acknowledge it to me, it's like it becomes the obstruction, and I can't see through it. So this thing of honestly checking and just facing it, and knowing that it's time to go home. And so as part of that process of going home, it is about seeing that what is holding me down, and just facing it and knowing that it's okay. It's Baba's help is here now, and one can sort of move through it. So using Amrit Vela from that perspective as well. And one day it was a lovely little insight, because I think one of my biggest challenges has always been that there's this creativity and wanting to do for Baba different things. So ideas for service always comes up, and that's the interference. And I was sitting in front of Baba, and I watched this happening and came back to center, and I told Baba, I think I love your task more than you, in a way. That's what I'm watching that's happening here. And it was a lovely thing, because then I said, okay, I almost felt like, when there's a couple and the wife is trying to please the husband so much by cooking the right food and doing all the right things, but she's not spending time with the husband, in a way, not giving her company, but trying to do everything to to please him in that way. And so then for a week, then I said, okay, Baba, I'm gonna go on honeymoon with you, so almost in a way to say, I don't have to do, but I just have to be in your company. And so, you know that subtle shift, and recognizing that how much um, do I give myself the permission to really feel God's presence and God's power and God's energy and love working through me and for me and with me. So those were some of my experiments and reflections in Amrit Vela. And of course, after Amrit Vela, I try to journal a lot, because I find that it really brings things together for me beautifully. So
That's
yes, that has been my.
beautiful. Oh,
Mhm.
thank you, Pratiba. Ben. No, those are really helpful. I'm looking at the faces and realizing that was all really good stuff, wasn't it? Yeah, I can see that. Okay, fantastic. And just, I think all of us here have also been having the same experience of facing many things. And so nice
Mm.
for you to frame it in the terms of it becomes an obstacle if I'm not seeing it, then I can't see through it. So just by seeing it, I get to see through it, and it's no longer an obstacle or an obstruction. So yeah, really helpful. I'm wondering if anyone else has questions for Pratiba, Ben, about anything you've heard or from the Murli today. We'll save 5 minutes to do our drill with you, Pratiba. At the end, we've been doing the 5-form drill every day before Baba comes for United Yoga Bhati. And then we also do 5 ohms every day together, taking Nirwarbai's inspiration from
Yeah.
NCCC, and each of the 5 ohms we dedicate to a mantra seva, to one different focus. So I'll tell you when we get there, it's quite sweet. But I'm wondering, any questions? We still have probably 5-6 minutes or so before we do our drill and our ohms. Any questions or comments for Sister Pratiba about murli or about anything she said? We lost our workers. They've gone to work now. And by the way, Carol, thrilled to bits I know you are. We have electricians roaming all over the house now, fixing all the things you wanted fixed. So isn't that great? And they're tippy-toeing around in their work boots.
I'm thrilled.
I knew you would be. Yeah.
I'll tell Sister Pratiba, I do grass cutting as one of my services, and we've had a little challenge getting our electric mower plugged in because the outside plugs aren't working. So you really did strike a chord with me when you said how service can overcome or be more significant in your day-to-day life sometimes than actually spending time with Baba. So I think you've said a lot about it already, but I just, I always keen to hear more. What I know you've said, really looking at our behavior patterns and so on. I guess sometimes I'm not sure I'm seeing all my patterns. I'm recognizing some, but what's your secret for unwrapping or uncovering those patterns that may not be, your best efforts? Can you say, just if you can say some more for someone who's still working on that problem? I'd be grateful.
One of the things that I feel is important, and is just it's to keep to the routine that works for me. So the Amrit Velas and the Murli and the class and time for reflection and doing what I need to do, because I feel, and my personal experience has been that when I keep to the efforts that I am making and just focusing on it, it builds up
Yes.
energy within. And I feel that sometimes I need that before I can see what I need to see. So I don't feel I need to dig out. I just feel keep at it, and then it becomes visible. It becomes visible when I'm ready to deal with it. Because I also don't feel, to try and go too much into our past and stuff like that. But I just feel just keep to the efforts, and it becomes clear when you observe what's happening in the mind and where is the pull coming through, and then it becomes clear through that process. So just keep to the efforts, and it's like the energy will build up, and at the right moment Baba will give you what you need to know at that point in time. The one day was so lovely. I was sitting, and there was something that was a challenge for me, and I said, Baba, I need to crack the code on this one here, because I can see it always brings me back into a particular cycle. And I had some murlis with me, and I picked up a murli at that point in time, and I looked, and the paragraph that my eyes fell on it made it just so clear what the issue was. So there is magic like that I feel. Not to feel too concerned that I'm not seeing everything that I need to see, and I haven't resolved everything that I need to, and I don't know all my obstacles. I think just keep to the efforts, and just also enjoy your efforts, which is important. Don't do it with this kind of a strain and or panic, we're running out of time. Because all of these things are going to come up for all of us, but just enjoy the effort, stay with Baba, and it will surface when it needs to.
Thank you. That was the perfect answer for me. Baba is really definitely working through you. Thanks so much.
Brilliant. Our good old Presbyterian Sanskar is working right through it. Yeah. What's the name of the sister in Cape Town who does, I think her name's Carol. I don't know why I'm thinking her name's Carol. Pratiba, what's the name of the sister in Cape Town who does all the beautiful garden work in Baba's home?
It is Carol.
It is Carol. I knew that. They're so similar. I knew that. Oh, very nice. Okay, anyone else? We probably have 2 or 3 minutes before we do our drill. Otherwise, we'll say a fantastically beautiful, big, warm, hugged thank you to our beloved Sister Pratiba. And I know